He's expected to announce big spending initiatives to create jobs next week. To Rand Paul, who's trying to get into office to stop all the spending. The Republican Senate candidate in Kentucky joins me now. And by the way, we reached out to his Democratic opponent, Jack Conway. We still have not heard back from him. But Rand Paul, you're not buying any of it. You don't want any new stimulus spending, period.
No, I think the president's philosophy is getting in the way of good policy. The president's philosophy, like so many people who believe in big government, is to either vilify those making over $200,000 and say, oh, we need to stick them with more taxes, or at the very least they underappreciate what the people who make $200,000 do. Those are the people who are driving the engine. Those are the people who are hiring the people. It may only be 1 million folks who make over $200,000 a year, but they account for 70 to 80% of the job creation. So if he wants to bring back taxes on these people, it'll be a disaster in the middle of a recession.
You've heard the argument. Stimulus Plan 1 worked, but not very well. So we need Stimulus Plan 2 because the economy is still running very, very slowly. And if we borrow a lot more money now, it doesn't cost very much because the cost of borrowing is at historic lows. You're not buying any of that either.
I don't think the American people are. I mean, all across Kentucky and across America, there's an uprising saying government needs to live within its means. I mean, we have a $2 trillion annual deficit, $400 billion in interest payments every year. I think we face a day of reckoning. I really think that government spending crowds out private spending, and that the more money you give to the federal government, the less that is left here in Kentucky to create jobs by small businessmen and women.
Do you think that if indeed there is a Republican sweep in the House and maybe the Senate, is there a chance of a real complete change of course for our economic policy, away from government and government spending towards private enterprise and investment? Can we do that?
I sure hope so. What I'm proposing is really not that we just change one party for the other. I think we need structural change. I think both parties have proven themselves to be untrustworthy with regard to balancing the budget. I think the only way they'll do it, the only way we'll restrain the size and growth of government, is they need to be forced to balance the budget by law, either a constitutional amendment or a very strict rule that they can't evade.
That's a long way off, sir.
The pay-as-you-go.
That, you know, any kind of constitutional change. I mean, you're talking a decade.
Well, I disagree. I'm more optimistic. You know, in '97, we passed a balanced budget amendment in the House, and we were within one vote in the Senate. So I think you actually could get an amendment. There is a groundswell. I mean, look at the hundreds of thousands of people who are showing up on the mall to basically say, government, we want to take our government back. We need a government that's restrained. We don't understand why we have to live on a budget and we can't spend more than we take in as individuals, and a country can do it. And the thing is we are going to live beneath our means if we continue to live beyond our means.
Can I just get specific for one moment? It is possible that next week President Obama will bring up a specific proposal, and that would be a payroll tax holiday worth in the region of $300 billion over a 10-year period. That was originally a Republican idea. It was the Republicans who put that forward 18 months ago. Instead, the president chose to go the spending route as opposed to the tax holiday route. If it was a Republican idea 18 months ago, can you still embrace it now? Would you be for it now?
I will be for anything that lowers the tax burden. In fact, I think that's the only thing government can do to help the economy. The most sustained growth we ever had, the only government stimulus plan that ever worked, was when we reduced marginal income tax rates under Reagan, and it spurred a decade of growth. That's what you need again, but you can't do that without cutting spending. So you really have to do both. And people typically in Washington, they're all for cutting taxes. Republicans have done a good job of that. But someone needs to also stand up and say, look, if we're going to cut taxes, it will help, but we've got to cut spending or the deficit problem will get worse.
I just want to be real clear, though. If the president did propose, say, a $300 billion payroll tax holiday next week, you would be for it. You would vote for it if you're in that position, if it was matched by spending cuts that balance it out. You'd do that.
Absolutely. I will always vote to reduce taxes, but I think we need to do it responsibly by also cutting spending.
Are you 7 points ahead of your Democratic opponent in the election?
Or maybe more. There are a lot of polls out there, and there's going to be a new poll out today that will probably be good for us. So, you know, we're pretty excited about it. The mood of the country is that President Obama is wrong on most of the issues of the day. They don't understand why you vilify people who make more than $200,000 when those are the people who hire you, those are the people who create the jobs, and we here in Kentucky want more jobs. The president is so wrong on our issues on cap and trade. Cap and trade will destroy jobs in eastern Kentucky, western Kentucky, but also we have aluminum plants that require cheap electricity, and if we get cap and trade, it will devastate our economy. President Obama's never even been to Kentucky that I know of, and the thing is he doesn't understand us here, and the people in Kentucky sense that he's wrong and that he doesn't really care about our jobs in Kentucky, and I think that's going to make this really a groundswell for our candidacy.
Rand Paul, we appreciate you joining us this Saturday, Labor Day weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.